Yo, this is Joel Davis,
And I'm Gracie Davis,
and this is Greater Than Real Estate.
where we go deep to find out who you really are beyond real estate.
So what's happening? We're super excited to have Edwin Leroy Edwards III with us. No, I'm just kidding. It's his name is Pierce Edwards. This is one of my buddies that goes way back from the junior college days. If you're out there and you're a JUCO bandit, this is the guy right here. No, I'm just kidding. But Pierce, so we know a lot about you, but we really want to get everybody to know more about you. So where'd you grow up? What'd you do in college? What'd you do growing up? How'd you get into real estate?
Sure. So, again, my name's Pierce Edwards. I'm the founder and broker of Treehouse Realty, DFW. I was born in Temple, Texas, a little town outside of Georgetown. Then moved to Abilene for a couple years, and then the past 20 years I've been here in the Dallas area. Played all sorts of sports growing up. Baseball is kind of the primary one, and so I had the privilege of meeting Joel Davis at Seminole State College in Seminole, Oklahoma. Most people have heard of that town. So
The Dirty Knoll.
Yeah. Played there for 2 years and then went to Seward County Community College for a year. Played there with my brother, which was a cool experience. And then played at Cameron University for a year and then finished up in Goodwell, Oklahoma at Oklahoma Panhandle State University, the Oklahoma Panhandle State University.
OPHSU, baby.
OPSU.
Oh, sorry, I forgot the H.
So, sports was a big thing growing up. That was kind of one common thing in my family. There were 3 boys, and so we all played sports. That was pretty much how we spent most of our time together. So being around competitive environments and doing that with my family was a lot of fun. So
That's great. So you got out of sports.
got out of sports.
Like a lot of athletes,
Yep.
once you're done with ball, you're like,
now what?
Now what?
Now
Yeah,
what?
which I
Yeah.
think is a huge
Yeah.
question. That
A lot of people are
face.
lost after that.
Yeah. So for you, did you go straight into real estate? What did you do?
So the focus, not the focus, but the plan B essentially was to get into real estate after sports. I was believe it or not, a strength and conditioning coach for about 6 or 7 months while I was getting my real estate license. But the plan kind of early on from a professional side of things was to get my real estate license, ultimately open up my own brokerage. But I remember as a young kid, my uncle had a real estate license and then opened up his own brokerage. And so I always thought that was super cool. He could be who he wanted to be, do what he wanted to do. With real estate, you've got this, especially as an agent, you have this entrepreneur side of things, whether you're a broker or an agent, because you're essentially running your own business if you're an agent and if you're a broker. So I thought that was really cool to start your own thing. And so that was kind of what I wanted to do. I always wanted to, never really wanted to be a corporate guy or anything like that. But I always wanted to have my own thing. And so this was kind of that path, along with, houses are just awesome. They're where they're like sanctuaries. They're where you spend all your time with your family. Kids grow up there. It's a very important, one of the most important pieces in people's lives is their home. And so early on, I wanted to be involved with that. And so that was really kind of what kickstarted everything. So I got to be a strength and conditioning coach and hammer out the courses and the tests, and then the rest is kind of history.
So what do people in your personal life think about your career?
So at the beginning, I specifically remember a time where I wasn't making any money. I was working constantly, had no time, always tired, always stressed. And I remember my parents, they're amazing people. So it was more them looking out for me. They were like, are you sure this is what you want to do? Like, is this really what you need to do? And I was like, yeah, like this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it happen. So after some bumps and bruises, things started to go my way, get a couple closings and stuff like that. So everyone around me, even on the times where it wasn't going well, were super supportive. They knew that with the talents and the skill set that I have personally, that it was kind of a natural fit, very personable. I talked to people, build relationships and stuff like that. So everybody's been super supportive, and
That's awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Super personable. So when you got into it and you said, your first couple months you weren't making anything. A lot of agents go through that.
Ton of them.
Most.
Most.
Yeah. What helped you get through that time? Like, do you attribute it back to baseball, where you've had some crazy stories at Seminole State Junior College, or was it the community around you? What helped you in that?
So obviously the support from my family was phenomenal. But somebody told me when I was playing sports that the cavalry's not coming. There's nobody that's going to come help you. You're on your own. You're on your own island. You got to make it happen. And so it was truly just beating your head against the wall until something worked. You know, it was truly just grit and hustle and getting those bumps and bruises early on to where it kind of, if you do it long enough and hard enough, it's going to work. It's just a matter of putting the time in, talking to as many people as possible. A lot of stuff you don't want to do up front, making calls and everything like that. But there wasn't like a moment that just clicked. It was kind of those days and weeks and months that I had been really putting it in, that it finally kind of, everything started to compound and it just started to work. So there wasn't like a magic sauce. It was just doing it every single day as hard and as long as I possibly could.
Yeah. And so you came into a different type of real estate market. A lot of people dealt with, direct consumer with residential, but you really started in on the investment side, and that's what you mainly do. What made you want to get into that and not be like selling Sunset?
Sure. So, that don't get me wrong. I love selling Sunset. I watch them all. I've watched every episode, every single one. But I knew that I didn't really just want to be like a traditional realtor. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it, putting the sign in the front yard, taking pretty pictures, fun Instagram pictures and stuff like that. I kind of wanted to be in the thick of it. And there's such a cool feeling when you take this beat up, nasty hoarder house and you turn it into this beautiful home for somebody who's going to live there for the next 10, 15, 20 years. And so it's easy to look at, on the outside, like you see the before and afters, but you don't see, day 1, week 2, month 4 on a project. But that part of it is a big thing that I like to do, is be a problem solver. And so essentially you're buying a problem and you got to solve it till it's done. So it's really, that was a big aspect, is taking a problem and turning it to something beautiful. But yeah, that aspect of, and you always see like, the swanky, developers and stuff like that. And you kind of want to be like that a little bit, but ultimately it was a unique niche that really appealed to me from it not being your traditional side of real estate.
So how would you say like the investing side is different than just your day-to-day real estate agent that's helping like a family buy a new house?
So there's a lot of things. So essentially you're looking at 2 different types of numbers. You're looking at the numbers that you're buying it right at the very beginning, and then basically projecting what you're going to sell it at. So you basically have 2 transactions on where you're buying it and then where you're selling it. You also, and there's also times, as a retail agent, you're dealing with inspections, stuff like that, and things having to be fixed, but you're not talking about the drywall or the, asbestos or the mold or whatever. That's all stuff that has to be addressed before anybody even walks in the house.
Yeah.
That's a big difference, is you're fixing those problems so that those people don't have to, that's not something they have to worry about later on.
Right.
But there's a lot of similarities too, because you do have to act as an agent. You do have to run comps. You do have to make sure that you're buying the property correctly. But as far as you're essentially, in construction at that point too. You're not, you can't wear, your Gucci shoes or your, Louis Vuitton bag or whatever when you're going into a house that's got, 3 feet of trash and smells like cat pee.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good house when you can smell the cat pee from the sidewalk. That's when I'm like, let's go. This is
that's
a good-
dollar signs right
that's
there.
dollar signs.
Oh my god!
When I can smell it from the sidewalk, I'm like, I
Yeah.
like this one.
All right, so you're hitting a little bit on some of the properties that you walked in on. What is the worst property that you walked in on to your memory?
So there's a handful. I got a couple if you got. If you
Yeah,
want a second.
give us
Okay.
all. Give us
So-
all of them.
So this was probably year 2 or 3 for me. We were looking at a house to buy in South Dallas, and numbers looked great. Everything was phenomenal. I knew that part of South Dallas, but I was training a guy at the time. So typically when we're going to these houses, we like to roll pretty deep, 2 to 3, 4 people.
Why?
Just mostly, one, from a safety standpoint. I mean, there's a lot of Dallas is great, Fort Worth is great, but there's some spots that are a little rougher than others,
Yeah.
and can be dangerous at times. Other part of it is, you know, it's good when you're looking at a house that's going to need $60,000 to $100,000 in work. It's good to have more than just one set of eyes. There's countless times where I've walked the house twice, and then my buddy's like, "Hey, did you see this?" And you know, it's the electrical panel is just ripped off, and you know, just stuff
Yeah.
like that. So we typically like to roll, you know, 2 or 3 people in, and it's a lot more fun. Gets a little lonely in the car if you're just driving for 4 or 5 hours a day and
Yeah.
you're by yourself. You can only listen to Joe Rogan like so many times before it's like, okay. So we're going to this house in South Dallas, and it wasn't necessarily like a conforming house. Like it was kind of mixed in with some really old rundown industrial stuff, kind of off by itself, which is kind of unusual, but not crazy, especially for South Dallas. And we obviously had permission to be there. We got the showing accepted and everything like that. So we tried to get in. Agent wouldn't answer, and I double checked the showing instructions, and it said use the back door. Well, there was, you know, it was boarded up and everything like that. So we got one of the biggest pieces of plywood. It was almost like they put a garage door on the back door. We had to rip off, and so I'm training a guy at the time, and super like maybe 5-6 days in. So he's fresh, he's excited. He's like, we're gonna look at a house, everything like that.
Yeah.
So we get the wood off, we get in the door, and he's off. He's like taking selfies and like Snapchats to his friends and stuff, and something's off. You know, you can kind of have like a feeling like something's just not quite right. So I walk in, he's running upstairs, you know, hanging off the walls and you know, doing crazy stuff. He's just excited to be there.
Yeah.
And I look down, I see a bunch of like needles, and the whole place is wrecked. And I walk to the front. I'm like, this is starting to look more like a office than a house. And I walked to like the very front of the house, and there's pamphlets, and it was I don't know if I can say it or not, but it was an HIV like clinic, and I'm like, Johnny, stop touching stuff, like stop. Hold on, everybody take, because they're truly, I mean, there was needles and trash and all sorts of nasty
It's
stuff.
a biohazard.
Yeah. So I immediately I
Wow.
was really upset because that was never disclosed on the listing or anything.
Yeah.
That's kind of a big deal, and so it was definitely a safety thing. So we slowly walked back out, put the plywood up as gently as we possibly could, and got out of there.
Wow.
But yeah, it.
Did y'all buy that property?
No, we did not. We
No.
ended up. I sent the agent a message saying that it needed to be. It'd be better if somebody just found a faulty wire and burned that thing to the ground. I didn't say that. I didn't tell her to say that. But no, that was pretty nasty. Just in the house itself was, I mean, falling apart. So outside of it, but yeah, that was. Especially when you got a new guy and it's like his first or second house that he's walking. I'm like, dude, stop licking the paint, dude. Like,
Yeah.
stop,
Yeah.
take a deep breath. There was another time, not too far from there, over in Bishop Arts. I had a lead to go look at this house, and I was told it was vacant, which I always knock before I go in the house.
Do you assume houses are vacant when you walk
I
in?
assume they're not vacant. I assume every house, whether it's vacant or not, is not vacant, especially in certain areas. But I always knock. That way, if somebody's in there, they can run out the back door or hopefully not hide and, you know, scare us or anything. But again, we were rolling like four deep. I think it might have been 5 of us to this one. And I knock on the door and somebody answers. And my heart just sinks. I'm like, this is not good. Like, this house has been vacant for at least a year. So I'm like, I'm trying to communicate to my guys that the house is vacant without telling the person, who just opened the door that they're not supposed to be there. They were super nice. We were like, hey, we're here to see the house. Like, oh, come in. And there were four of them in there, and they had like hardwired the electrical panel to their TV, so they had like cable going on and like couches in there. One guy's passed out on the couch, and I like try to like move everybody to the back. I go, hey, this is supposed to be vacant. Like, there's not supposed to be anybody in there, and everybody's like freaking out. I'm like, just play it cool. It's all good. But it's amazing what people can do. I mean, literally, they took the electrical panel and hot wired it and had cable television in this house that had, no running water or anything like that. So it was.
Oh my gosh.
It was wild. Yeah.
Did y'all buy that house?
Didn't buy that house either. Didn't buy that house.
I feel like there's a pattern.
Didn't buy that house. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of buying houses that people are in that aren't supposed to be there. There's just a lot of stuff that
could go wrong there.
Yeah, could go wrong there.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I'm sure you've got a lot more than that too. So, on the investment side, you talked about looking at homes that you're looking at where the state they're in right there, and then what you can flip them into.
Sure.
Is this like Chip and Joanna flipping
houses?
houses?
So that's the funny thing. Chip and Joanna are like the bane of my existence. I mean, like I'm sure they're great people, but every investor that I've worked with, especially newer ones, think it's like a 30-minute job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They watch the TV. They're like, we want to do Chip and Joanna stuff. And that's like red flags. I'm like, no Chip and Joanna stuff. We're not putting flower pots here and stuff like that or anything like that. So it's very different. It's what they don't, and I don't watch them. I'm not very, educated on how they do things, but they don't necessarily go through like the full cost of everything. Whether if you're using hard money, how much that costs every month, and that eats into it. They don't talk about a lot of things from my knowledge of what they do that it kind of gives like it's more of a fun thing.
Yeah.
And it cannot be fun a lot of the times.
Yeah.
Like it can be very stressful and not a whole lot of fun, but it's cool it inspires people because they want to get out and do it, and that's awesome. But there's a lot of stuff that goes behind the scenes that people don't know, like coordinating your foundation guy and your plumbing guy and then your roofing guy, and then getting your interior and making sure that the biggest thing, it's a huge cliche, but and everybody says it, but location. I mean, that tells you what rents are going to be, what the house is going to sell for, the days on market, where you need to buy it. It tells you everything about the property. And I think a lot of people don't understand. They just see numbers, right? But they don't see, well, that's been sitting on the market for 60 days and still not under contract. And if you got hard money on it, that's 2 months of very steep
Holding
interest
costs.
payments. That you got to take care of, and those start to eat up quick, especially in DFW. It's so competitive that you can't go and buy. It's not that you can't. It's much more difficult to go and buy properties at these big margins because there's so many people trying to do it, and it's such a hot market. So yeah, there's a lot of things that you don't know until you do it. I know for me specifically, the first house I did, I thought we were gonna $70,000 budget, do this, do that, be in and out in 2.5 months. It ended up being a 6-month project that cost us like $115,000. So it was very different on the first one. But I essentially paid to learn what to do and what not to do, and what was important and what wasn't important. That was a big thing that people are scared to get into it and stuff like that. But you just have to do it. I mean, you got to make sure you're financially set up to do it, because thankfully at the time, me and my partner were able to handle a $40,000 overage on a rehab budget, but that's not uncommon. Even with I've flipped a lot of houses at this point, and even I walk houses daily, and I still very seldom do I come in or below what I budget for. There's always something that pops up, especially in these older houses that are 50, 60, 70 years old, and I bought a 1926 duplex in South Dallas, and that was a lot of fun. So there's a lot of things wrong with 100-year-old houses that you have to fix that you think you can get by with, but typically you can't.
Yeah. So something that I wonder, because I deal with obviously the insurance side, when it comes to investors, are they really just mainly focusing on getting it to a cosmetic look that seems presentable, or are they also taking into account like
Like the
galvanized
structural-
plumbing
right.
and like all of these things that like I know from an insurance standpoint can like really hinder
really
somebody
impact it.
buying that house?
So it's tough because there's a lot of really good investors and a lot of really good people that flip houses that do everything the right way. They replace the cast iron plumbing. They replace the roof. They replace the, janky electrical panel and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And thankfully with the lending side, there's kind of a safety net to where
A certain standard has to be met.
Right. It won't even you
Okay.
can't even get a loan on it if it's so there are
Okay.
some things, but there's definitely people out there who cut corners or, slap paint on it, put lipstick on a pig, people say.
Yeah.
And there's definitely a lot of people that do that. But for the most part, a lot of people I don't really work with anybody that does that cuts corners because
Yeah.
that's essentially putting my name on it too.
Right.
And I don't do that. I don't want to work with anybody that does that. But
Right.
it does happen, And,
Yeah.
and sometimes it's not even that they mean to; they may just not know. And I
Right.
think that's a big thing is educating yourself on the standards of. And the way I look at it is, I'm creating, not creating. I'm fixing a house that somebody's gonna most likely spend the next 10 to 20 years in.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that most of the time it's families, like very seldom is it not families that on the houses that I do. And I want
Yeah.
to make sure that when I put my name on it, that it's good.
Yeah.
They're solid. Everything's fixed. They're not going to have any issues because that's, as a homeowner myself, that's like the worst thing in the world when plumbing gets messed up or your HVAC goes out or something's wrong with the electrical and you got to come out. You think you're buying this wonderful property that's super pretty and stuff like that, but 2 years down the line or 6 months after you close, there's a $7,000 fix that, you just put a $30,000 down payment on this, house that you think you're going to spend the next decade or two in. And now you got to figure out how you're going to,
Yeah.
fix the plumbing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's crazy. So when it comes to, the investing side of real estate, you're not a typical real estate agent. What advice would you give to somebody that wants to go the route that you did?
I would say you really need to make sure you're set up to handle months of basically no income. That I know most agents have to do that, but on the investing side, especially if you're buying a house, like you're not going to get paid on that house for a couple months. I think the biggest thing that kind of separates that is your network and relationships that you build from day one. Because on the retail side, obviously there's a lot of, relationships that goes on, but you never know who's going to have a deal. You never know what contractor that you randomly meet in that's going to be $2 cheaper than this guy, and that adds up on, throughout a project. And so the biggest thing is talk to everybody. Make sure that the other thing is a lot of people are going to waste your time, and the quicker you can figure out and identify either the situations or the people that are going to waste your time. And most people don't mean to waste your time, but I know that was a big thing early on for me was not that I trusted too many people or trusted people too much, but I wanted to make a paycheck. So I was hanging on to every little, lead that I might get. And so the more you do it, the more you realize, well, I just worked 6 hours for nothing or 12 hours or whatever, and nothing came of it. The quicker you can go and identify like these time sucks and eliminate them completely and be able to see, okay, this person's serious, this person's not serious. This person will get me a bid in 2 hours, or this guy's going to take 2 weeks to get me a bid. Identifying those situations in people is a big thing. So you were asking what kind of the big things were early on is identifying time sucks and just building your network, because you never know, one, when you can help somebody, and two, when an opportunity is going to come up from a relationship that you might have made in college 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is a perfect example. You got podcasts and everything, big time guy, and so it's cool that we met when we were 18, 19 years old, and here we are.
Yeah.
or I guess I'm closer to 30 than you by.
Oh yeah, you're gonna beat me
Yeah.
by a couple
Yeah.
months.
So
Yeah, and we had our minds shaped by Z and Uncle James.
yeah, great guy.
Shout out to Lloyd Zero Simmons and James. James, you can't even
Builders
just,
of men, man.
some scary
Absolutely.
times.
Yeah.
Some scary times.
So tell us a little bit. Tell us a little bit more about your personal life. What your daily routine looks like.
Sure.
Yeah, tell us about your better 99%.
Yeah, so I am engaged. We get married in December. I'm so excited. I'm excited. Well, I'm excited for the wedding to marry her, but I'm more excited for the wedding planning to be over with.
Yeah.
I like yesterday. I'm on the phone with one of the guys that we're listing a house with, and I have 3 missed calls from my fiance, and I'm stressing. I'm like,
Yeah, you're in trouble.
dog got out, or like, something terrible's happened. And so I'm like, hey, I gotta go. Like, my fiance's called me 3 times, and bless her heart, she wanted my opinion on what her after ceremony, like the second dress that she needed. It was a big dilemma that needed. So obviously, if that's my biggest issue, then we're fine.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, how much do you actually have in on the wedding planning? Is it just yes dear, no dear?
I try to be as uninvolved as possible because my opinions are not the right ones. Apparently.
Never.
They're
They give you 2
but
of them.
But the problem is they always ask for it.
Yes,
Yeah.
but they
I
give you
just
2
never
of
know
them,
which-
and every one that you
Right.
pick is always the wrong
Right,
one. Well,
right.
I was thinking it was actually
Right.
this color.
And the good thing, I'm so lucky. She's beautiful, sweet, amazing, very kind-hearted. So
Yeah.
to me, she's gonna look great in a burlap sack. You know what I mean? Like, she's gonna be. I don't care what the secondary dress is, but yeah, I try to be as uninvolved because my taste isn't up to par.
It's not there.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not exactly where her vision is, and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
well,
It's not where her Pinterest board is either.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. If I had $1 for every Instagram message or video that look at this, I'd be a very wealthy man.
Sounds about right.
I'd be doing all right. So
Oh.
it's been great. I'm really excited to my brother's wedding. The person who did their service, he made a point to tell him he was getting nervous, and he was like, "Hey, everybody who's coming to your wedding, like it was in Canada, so it wasn't like it was down the street. It's like
Wow.
everybody who's here wants to be here and is going to support you. They don't care what the place setting looks like or what the flowers look like.
Yeah.
They're here to support you and be with
Yeah.
you. And so, big thing is I'm just so excited to share that special moment with her and my family and friends and have a
Yeah.
good time.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Oh.
Way
Yeah.
better than you.
She's great.
Way
She's
better than
great.
you.
Oh.
I get
so-
that. Yeah, it's crazy. I get that a
Is it?
lot.
Hey, people say my wife's better than me
yeah,
too.
I don't disagree. I mean, it's
So you talked about Ariel. We know how busy you are.
right.
Now bringing somebody else into your life during this time of opening a new brokerage and still grinding because the market's not as easy as it once was. How do you handle the work-life balance?
It was an adjustment. I was a bachelor for a while, so I didn't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
I worried about Pierce. You know what I mean? I worried
Yeah.
about when I could eat at 10 o'clock if I wanted to eat at 10 o'clock. That doesn't fly anymore. I can't eat it because when I cook, I make too much of a mess, and she feels like she's gonna
She's got to clean it up.
Oh,
She
definitely has to clean it.
Whenever I clean, it's never quite clean enough. But
Hey, you're doing a good job.
yeah. So it's definitely it wasn't a massive adjustment just because she's incredible. There were just little things like I could work till whenever, and now I want to go have dinner with her and spend time with her, and she's got a new puppy as well. So she works from home, and so she's got to deal with 2 dogs. So I try and relieve that stress as much as possible. But it's been the adjustments have been good. I've had more structure in my life, which has been good. I definitely she's phenomenal. So she helps me be better. I push myself because I want to make sure that her and I are set up, well in our future life and for our future family. And so it's been really good because I thought I was a great cook until I met her. So it definitely helps with little things like that. But from an adjustment standpoint, it's been pretty smooth, and a lot of that is credit to her because she makes things better and just about everything that she does. Oh yeah. Oh, brownie points, sweetheart, if you're watching.
Ariel, I wrote that script for him to say that.
You are funny. Well, that's so sweet, and that's just great. A lot of times we talk about how getting to have like a partner in life, and like we're Team Davis, like you guys are going to be a team, and now and once y'all get married, obviously it's going to be y'all forever. So
Yeah,
that's
we're really
shout out
excited.
to that because I never thought you would ever settle down.
Yeah, you and a handful of people.
Yeah,
too.
I thought
you were-
Pierce. I thought
on.
Pierce was
Yeah.
gonna be Pierce his whole
Yeah.
Edwin his whole
Pierce
life.
thought Pierce was going to be Pierce for a minute. You were not the only one. No, it was cool. The whole immediately. Second I met her, I was like, I guess she's gonna be my wife. I was like, this is
Well, I remember the story of the first week that you guys like hung out that your water
Oh,
went
man.
out.
So I had just finished.
Oh, yeah, tell us
I
that
just
story.
finished. I bought this really cool. It's like a townhouse, but it's classified as a condo in Dallas, not too terribly far from downtown. It's really cool. You wouldn't even know it's there. It's like hid behind these woods, and there's creeks and stuff. And so I just poured my blood, sweat, and tears renovating this house, and the plumbing guy that I had flaked like 7 or 8 times. So the plumbing was holding on by a thread. And right before she was going to come to my place for the first time, floods, no water. Like, I turn off the water, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, like, there's no running water. Like, so I don't want to scare you off, but I want to be completely transparent. So if you got to go to the bathroom, we're gonna have to run to the Target down the street.
grab some jugs of water.
Yeah. So it was definitely the fact that she hung through me through that. And the plumbing guy never did end up showing up, so I had to find a new plumbing guy.
Wow.
But yeah, she was a trooper early on because for me, I could live, in a box. Yeah, I'm fine, But when you have somebody else who is coming over and spending time with you, there's some other luxuries like running water that you
That you
actually
kinda
have
need.
to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. It definitely made for some fun stories early on.
Yeah. Well, she was a trooper for dealing with that. That's how you
Yeah,
knew.
most women would have been like, "Oh, no running water." I'll
Yeah, but that's how you knew she really liked you.
yeah,
So
thankfully.
it ended up working out. So going back to kind of the business side,
Mhm.
what are some things that you want people to understand about the market right now when it comes to investing and things like that, or even just in the standard
Sure.
market?
So it's very unique right now because you're still. I tell a lot of the clients that we work with, you still have a lot of demand on high quality product. For example, the house that we just listed yesterday. Beautiful house. I mean, they cut no corners, new plumbing, foundations done, new HVAC, gold hardware, marble backsplash. Like products like that are going to sell. There's going to be a demand for them, whether the interest rates are 4 or 8. The problem is there's a slight issue with there's kind of a disconnect to where people are kind of stuck in a couple years back to where prices were outrageous. And so, especially on the investing side, there's a lack of quality homes, quality meaning like there's equity in them and stuff like that at the right price to where there's just so much demand that people are having to buy a little higher, especially in some of these primo areas. Sellers are not necessarily. I had somebody tell me a couple days ago that people are only selling if they have to right now, which makes sense. I mean, it's kind of a unique time with the interest rates being where they're at. So it's tougher to find a good deal out there. And that's one thing personally that I've struggled with was finding, decent deals. And that's when you have to go back to your network, the relationships you built. Talk to people you may not have talked to in a year or two. And so making sure that, you're turning over all those stones to find that hidden gem. But I still believe quality product, quality price, you're going to get, a lot of demand for.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you talked about it a little bit, how you've gone through like the investment side and now you opened up your own brokerage. One, how has it been opening up your own brokerage? Two, what's your goal for your brokerage?
So getting started is really tough, or was for me. It may not be for everybody, but for me it was, just because there's so many things you don't think about when you start a business. Like, you go from being an agent to essentially starting your own company, and there's so many different things, whether it be insurance or office space or making sure guys are properly set up, and so that was a big adjustment. Was I can't only worry about myself and buying and selling houses. That was kind of the biggest adjustment. Was I now have to not necessarily take a step back, but put a new hat on, and because you're essentially, I mean, we had a guy that moved from Amarillo to basically take a chance and roll the dice with us, which was awesome. But I've got a lot of young guys that are, I've got to make sure they're going to be successful. And so that responsibility, on top of making sure that you're also successful, that was a big adjustment, because it's almost like starting a family. Like, you want to make sure that everybody's taken care of. And so that was definitely a big thing, because you can't just go and do your own thing. You got to make sure these other guys are getting fed and keeping the lights on and being successful, because they have dreams and aspirations just like you did. And so helping them move closer to those, and making sure that the office is running properly and that you have the systems and structure in place, so that when something does come along or an opportunity comes along, that they're able to take full advantage of it and have the knowledge and the training and understanding on how to make the most of it.
Have you had any sort of like mentor that's helped you with that, or any books you've read that you felt like helped?
I've actually gotten on I'm not a big reader, unfortunately. I got to read like a page 3 or 4 times before I fully get it. But I've gotten real big into audiobooks. I've read a lot more in the past year or listened to in the past year than I have. I haven't really had I've had a lot of help along the way. Like, don't get me wrong. I've every step of the way there's been somebody to help, but there hasn't been like that one, mentor that's been there. I've just had a lot of support and a lot of help from a lot of people around me that have helped guide me. And a lot of it was, you got to make mistakes, and you got to learn from those mistakes and put yourself out there and get those bumps and bruises, because that's honestly the quickest way to learn, is for you to go and make that mistake. And obviously, not the quickest way to learn, because obviously if somebody tells you not to do something, somebody's looking out for you, tells you, hey, don't do this, it's going to be a waste of time. But I haven't had anybody specifically, just a lot of really good people around me, and I've been very fortunate in that. And then what was the second question?
Just, I asked mentors or books, so you
books,
answered both.
Books.
Any big ones that stick out to you?
Or the audiobooks?
They're I forgot what the title is called, but it's like 30 letters Rockefeller sent to his son. It was basically just very, very basically telling his son what he's doing, what he needs to be doing, some lessons in there. That was a really good one. I've read a lot of books about bad business decisions and how they've blown up, and kind of seeing some of these, for lack of a better term, psychopaths that start off great. It's like utopia, right? Everything's working, and then they just get either power hungry or, I'm reading one right now called The Fund, to where it's about Ray Dalio, and he built this giant hedge fund, but the inner workings of it were crazy. They were like writing people up, if they left a piece of copy paper and, the printing tray, which is important. You want to do the little things right, but I've read a lot more about people's failures that started off successful, but ended in, it burning to the ground type thing. And so that's been a really big help, is seeing people build these, giant, massive companies, and either making the wrong decisions and trying to learn from their mistakes and stuff like that. So that's been really beneficial to. And it's also, you see how you treat people, and that's a big thing. Making sure, no matter how big you get, making sure that you don't change. You're always wanting to grow and expand, but you still have to be, like day one. When you got whether you got 4 people in your office or 40 or 400, you got to maintain basically that original principle and why you built something.
No, that's awesome. So if you could go back, your baseball career, you talked about it. You had a plan A. A lot of baseball guys,
True.
me including, all had a plan A, and then there was a plan B that we didn't sell out to, because if we didn't sell out to plan A, then you weren't serious about it. If you could go back to the day that you played your last game or the last time that you were able to play ball, what advice would you give to
Don't
that
cry so
Pierce?
much when it's over. No, I'm just kidding. I cried like a baby. I couldn't even talk afterwards.
Oh.
I would have told myself that, like, this isn't it. This is the end of a chapter, but not the end of the book.
Yeah.
It definitely, it's a very, especially, I mean, you and I, we probably played since we could play, when we walking in the backyard hitting, rocks and stuff.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it's so tough because you pour yourself into something
Mm-hmm.
and then all of a sudden it's just over.
Yeah.
It's done. Like there's no next game or anything like that. And so it's definitely a big struggle for a lot of athletes that they don't know what to do and they're lost. And even having the kind of the real estate bug early on, I was still lost. I didn't know there was such a big like empty space in me because a massive part of my life was over. But you have to. I don't necessarily want to say have a plan B because I'm a big believer in like selling out.
Yeah.
Plan A, and if we go to plan B, then we failed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I'll never tell anybody like have a plan B, in case it doesn't work out or you get hurt or anything like that, because I think if you got a dream, you need to chase it.
Yeah.
And until they rip the cleats off of you or rip the pads off, whatever it may be. But just because they do that doesn't mean it's over.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you can't go build something. Doesn't mean you can't create an amazing life for you and your family. I think that was the big thing. It was like, well, the whole goal was to go make money playing sports, and there's a lot of money in sports. Well, now what am I going to do? How am I going to fulfill those dreams that I promised myself that I would?
Yeah.
And there's other avenues, and you can still go into a non-athletic environment and still be competitive. That was a big thing. Was there? I was like, how am I going to compete now? Like competing was, getting in the box or getting on the mound and going after somebody. And now it's different. Now I'm competing for deals or competing to make sure that we get the best price and stuff like that. There's just a different. I don't have to do as many push-ups or sit-ups now, but
or run as much.
Yeah, or run as much. But there's still other ways that you can go out there and kind of fill that void that a lot of young athletes have early on.
That's awesome.
Speaking of running, I don't think people understand about junior college and Seminole State specifically.
We might as well have been a cross country like Olympic team. I don't know.
What is the worst story that you remember from junior college on? I have an idea of which one it is, but what is the worst running story that you can remember?
So I think we're thinking of different ones because this one was, I know which one you're thinking of, and I'll let you tell that one. But this one was, we were at junior college. We had a lot of international kids. And we had a handful of guys from Quebec.
Yeah.
And we were running in the gym because it was, 5 degrees outside or whatever it was. And we had to do 2 miles in 12 minutes.
People don't believe me when
they
we say
don't
that.
believe us that we said that, yeah.
It's legit.
And, when you run 11 miles a day or, 5 miles every other day, 2 miles in 12 minutes becomes like a luxury. It's great. It's like great. But this was like go time. Like if you didn't get this, you weren't getting a jersey. And there were a lot of guys who took it more serious than others. And these, not that they didn't take it serious, but prepared. Let me say that, prepared a little better than others. And so this French guy, we were probably 3/4 of the way done, and they've got trash cans set up on different spots of the gym so that you don't puke on the hardwood floor. Which immediately you see trash cans, you're like, oh, this is not good. We're running, we're not cleaning. You know what I mean? And I remember I'm running and I'm in my zone. I'm like counting how much longer I've got and stuff like that. And all I hear is like this giant, violent, like dry heave.
Oh gosh.
And you've got the head coach screaming at you. and this poor guy is running and puking in his mouth. So that because if you stop, you're losing time. Like, you're not going to make it. Like, you're not going to. And he's like running and, puking in his hands and dumping it in the trash can. And
As he swings by.
And I'm in, whole place smells like sweat and vomit. And it's humid. It's nasty. But yeah, when you're seeing a guy running for his life and puking in his hands and mid-stride throwing it in the trash can, that sticks with you a little bit.
Yeah, and we were second when it came to running, so we had to walk into that. And we also, I think the most intimidating part when I first did, and we all had stories of morning running before it happened, was being in the hallway. It's pitch black in the hallway. The gym's open. They never had to experience this, but we're in the hallway, and all you hear is just people running. Just people blowing chunks.
Because it's not just running. Like it's like there's a level of intensity.
Oh
like,
my
obviously,
gosh,
there's times that you got to run at a certain time, but when you've got this scary old man like 5 rows up in the bleachers just screaming at you, telling you,
it's things we can't say.
Saying things that are better left unsaid. It's very intimidating, and I never experienced being on
oh my gosh
the second time, but I can't imagine, because I'm assuming when you're coming in, you want to know, because they never tell us what we're going to be running. It was like we got to the gym and they're like, all right, we're doing 2 for time, or we're running 5 miles or
9 5s.
Right, something crazy like that. And so you never really know what you're getting into.
What do you mean by like the first and the second time?
So
like,
the pitchers ran first,
okay.
and then there was actually 2 groups of hitters that did it second. And so my first time ever doing it, I got no sleep the night before. I was scared out of my mind.
There's horror stories. Like, you come into Seminole and it's like,
and they're legit. They're real.
Better be nothing was. If anything was undersold. If anything was undersold.
I agree. So like we're in the waiting room or whatever,
it's
the hallway.
Like 5:30.
Oh
6
yeah,
o'clock.
and Z's yelling, James is yelling, and
so when the first group is going, you can just hear that first group going.
Oh, you can hear all the throw ups, all the yellings, I literally have PTSD of those days. But it was insane.
You might as well think like there was a guy with a gun in there. Like,
it probably would have been better if we got shot. Just to be honest. The worst running story we had was we played a doubleheader at Oklahoma Christian, and we didn't play good the Tuesday or whatever before. It was a midweek game, and Z at the end of practice literally said, "For every run you lose by, you will have 2 miles when we get back." And so we're playing a doubleheader. It's 105 both games. We lost the first game by 9 runs. 9 runs.
Seminole's a phenomenal program. So it wasn't. This was like
out of the ordinary.
And then we won the second game. But Z, true to his word, as soon as we came back, he parked the bus at the field. We got out, didn't even go into the building. He said, "Put your stuff on the side of the building." We ran to the pond and back, which was 3 miles. And we ran that 6 times. Some of us, like for me, I cramped up more walking than jogging. It was so bad. And thank the Lord, because it was the Lord. There was a thunderstorm that came in and lightning was going on, and they told us to come in.
Which is surprising.
Which was, gosh, I'm shocked we didn't die.
You.
But there's some 24 and 24, 48 and 48.
There's some horror stories for sure.
Oh my gosh.
That's awesome. Well, okay. So back to more serious stuff.
Yeah, so a lot of topic.
I'm sweating right now thinking about that.
PTSD.
So what has been the most memorable part of your real estate career so
That's
far?
tough. I've honestly had so many great experiences with so many great people. It's tough to really narrow one down. There was one that it looked like the end of times situation. So this is one of my personal experiences. So I bought a duplex. It was built in 1926 in South Dallas in Bonton. And it was rough. I got it for cheap. It was going to cash flow well. I was going to, hold on to it. And I close on it. There's some tenants in there we're working on getting out. And I get a call from the Dallas city attorney. And he goes, hello, Mr. Edwards. And I'm, I can't remember his name, the attorney for Dallas. And I'm like, hold on, attorney. Like, do I need an attorney on the phone? Like, what have I done?
Yeah.
So title had missed like a list pendant or something crazy to where there was a giant work order because the house it wasn't on the demo list, but it was going to, if it didn't get fixed up, they were going to, take it from whoever it was. And so obviously that's supposed to get cleared up in title and all that good stuff. Well, it didn't. So I had a $20,000 budget to basically bring it up to code, make sure it was nice enough inside. It wasn't really big, but I wasn't going to make it luxurious or, redo everything just because I was going to hold on to it. I was going to make sure it was a quality space for people to live in and do that. So when they're telling me I got to fix it, there was, I think, like 27 lines of improvement, and I had like 3 of them on there that I was going to do. So
Wow.
I
That's crazy.
obviously was not planning on it. I had to file a claim with the underwriting company. And so thankfully that got approved. Everything was like that. But on top of it, with the area that was in, it was a really, really rough area. And I didn't know this till, a month after I sold the property, but it was kind of like notorious for being the trap house in that area. That was where people went to get what they needed to get. So we had a lot of pressure and a lot of incidents with some people who did not want that place fixed up. They wanted it for themselves. They thought they owned it, and without actually owning it, they thought that they had rights to it because they run that area.
Wow.
We had a lot of issues, and so I'm thinking, how do I protect this property without spending any more money than I have to? Cameras were out of the question because I knew they were going to get stolen. I didn't want to get Wi-Fi in there because I thought they'd steal that too. I didn't want to spend, a ton of money on, a security system or anything like that because I'm already, having to put out a bunch. Because the money doesn't come immediately when you file that claim. It takes a little bit. And I've got a time frame from the city on when I've got to get things done. And I actually had the wonderful idea to go on Craigslist. And so I looked for people who needed a room. And it's amazing the different posts you'll see from people who are looking for a room. There's some unique characters on there, but I found this couple. They were down on their luck, had some issues, and met with them. I was like, hey, I essentially will let you stay here for free. You don't have to pay anything. You got to be out by 7, and you can't come back till 7 because my people will be working on it. And the place was already done enough to where somebody could live in it. It wasn't like there was holes in the ground or anything. But he had an incident like 2 nights in to where I was like, hey, you guys are the only people supposed to be here. If there's anybody else, either call the cops, tell them to leave, whatever. Don't, get in an altercation or anything. And he called me like 3 days later. He was like, I don't think you'll be having trouble with the group that has been bothering you for, the past couple of months. I go, whoa, what happened? He goes, well, they were trying to get in the other unit. And I walk out and told them that I could do 2 things. I got a pistol on my side or I can call the cops. And I guess they had enough respect for the guy that they're like, all right, we're done. Like, we're not going to get the cops involved and we don't want to get shot or anything like that. So thankfully, I don't necessarily recommend going that strategy, because it could backfire, but I did
Literally?
Literally. I did a good
gosh.
job vetting them, and I made sure that, like, hey, I'm doing you a favor. You're doing me a favor. You get to stay in a place for free for the duration of this. When we sell it, you got to – basically, I had them staying in there from, when we initially told them they could stay in there until when we closed on it. And so, I mean, that could backfire you. They could not leave. They could tear the place up. I had to tell him like 8 times, like, please stop smoking cigarettes inside the property. He was a big smoker, and I was like, we just painted this thing. Like, please don't continue to smoke cigarettes in there. But we came out smelling like a rose, man, because it was one of those situations to where I had never experienced anything like that. That's the other thing with investing is, like, there's a lot of stuff. As you could flip 100 homes, 200 homes, whatever. There's going to be something that you haven't come across that you've got to figure out a way to deal with. Thankfully, it worked out. We got taken care of by the title company. Everything was fine. And I ended up selling it. I was like, I don't want any part of it. I was trying to do a good thing, make a nice property in this area, rent it out to tenants. I was like, I don't want any part of it. We're gonna move on from this. But ended up doing all right on that one. But it definitely, from a memorable standpoint, it was like people would joke about, me having that duplex in Bonton because it was such a bad area. I was in over my head on the rehab because with it being nearly 100 years old, like everything's got to go. You can't save anything. We replaced all the sheetrock, all the studs, everything. And even then, it was still, some of the sheetrock was still starting to come down. So we had to fix all that stuff. It was wild.
Wow.
It's amazing that houses can last that long, but it was definitely memorable because I had to figure out ways to get that, because again, nobody was going to come. Nobody cared that I had this duplex in Dallas and was drowning, and it felt like the world was coming to an end. That was a lot of fun after the fact. That was one of those memories that like it's fun now talking about it, but dude, I'm like laying in bed at night. I'm like, I'm gonna get shot. I'm gonna get robbed. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy. Can't imagine that.
They're not all like that, by the way. They're
Sure.
Not, there's a lot of good stories, but it definitely that was one of the most memorable because I remember sitting. It was a big freeze, and I didn't think about it. But 1926 houses, they didn't have like spouts on the side of the house. But I sent my little brother. I was out of town. I was like, hey, I need you to go. We just replaced the plumbing. Like, please go put covers on the.
There was none.
There was no. Yeah, obviously now looking back, it was a 100-year-old house. And he got chased around by some bad guys, and I felt bad about that. But he was like on the phone. He's like, "Dude, there's somebody after me." Take a deep breath. It's gonna be fine. And it was actually pretty serious. But yeah, it was actually I sent my kid brother out there to a bad rough part of town to do me a solid. And
somebody wanted that trap house.
A couple people wanted that trap house, and they thought they could run us off, and we weren't gonna let that happen. So
wow,
a lot of fun.
Life of thrills in real estate.
It's great,
Who knew?
Man. It's awesome.
That is Pierce's middle name is Thrills. It's not Leroy. It is Thrills.
I was gonna say the book that he's gonna write is gonna be, Life of Thrills in real estate. So, kind of coming to close on our podcast. One of the things that we want to talk to you about is: have you had your "I've made it" moment yet? And if not, what is the "I've made it" moment?
So it's not yet. No, I've thought I've had that moment a couple of times. I'm like, dude, you're not even close. Like,
when you sold the duplex.
Yeah, when I sold, I was like, I made it. I'm out. I'm done. I'm good. We'll never touch another house again. No, not yet. There's an exercise that I like to do pretty regularly, where you essentially, it's a little morbid, but you write your own obituary as if you died that day. And
wow.
Yeah, it's really, if you take it seriously and you really put some thought into it, I keep going back to, here lies Pierce Edwards, he did his best, he tried. I don't want it to say I tried or he did his best. I want to say he did it. And it for me is helping as many people and impacting as many people. I want to be the guy that people call when they're in trouble or when there's a problem. I want to be the problem solver for as many people as I possibly can. And so it for me is building this brokerage to where not only myself but the agents that we have on board are touching people's lives and helping. There's a lot of serious, distress situations in real estate that depending on the kind of agent and expertise that you have can really impact these people's lives. And so having this vessel to have that impact on people, I want to make sure that it is as broad and as vast as I possibly can make it so that, the people who sacrifice, for me to be successful, I can pay it back to them. And so I want to, made it for me is taking care of everybody that's taking care of me and touching and helping as many people as I possibly can. I know it's kind of corny, but I want to make sure that what we build at the brokerage is not just a brokerage, not just a place to make money or anything like that. It's to actually go and help people and help, I don't want to say make dreams come true, but help other people build their dreams. And I think that's a big thing. There were a lot of people for me, early on that sacrificed and did things they didn't have to do so that I can go and have my dream. And I want to make sure that I build something for other people to go and do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
really good. Really thought out.
Yeah.
Way more than I thought. That you
Really?
would say. No, I'm just kidding. No, Pierce is awesome. What do you define as success?
So I think it's different for everybody. I think it's, success for somebody is going to be different for me. For me, I don't want to be comfortable. I think I've said this for a while that comfort is like the quickest way to mediocrity. You start making some money, your bills are paid, you got a little walking around money, and you kind of stop growing. So I think success for me is constant growth and constant, building what I want to build and building it with the people I want to build it with. So there's not like a dollar amount or a number of houses or a portfolio or anything like that. Success for me is kind of going back to what I said is building something that will continuously help people, whether I'm a part of it or I'm long gone. That what I put my name on continues to go, beyond me. And so success is making sure that what we do is the right thing and being remembered in that manner.
Yeah. So basically, as many 1920s.
Yeah,
Do
buy
Trap
as
houses.
many
1920
1920
trap
trap houses in South Dallas as you possibly can. That's success.
That's success.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to look to wrap it up, but one of the big questions that we have at the end is, we've realized, one, being as a sports guy, I put a lot of my identity into sports, and a lot of people do that, but we've realized a lot of people in this industry put their identity and their worth in their job as being a real estate agent or as being a husband or being a wife or a parent. Where would you say your identity lies?
That's a heavy hitter, man. That's a tough question. So I really, like I said earlier, I want to be known as like the problem solver. Like when things get tough, call Pierce.
Yeah.
He's gonna, whether he knows how to fix it or not, he's gonna find a way to fix it. I want to be known as somebody who can help, whether big or small. And so I want my identity, and I'm working to continue to build the identity that I'm a problem solver, that I can fix just about anything. And if I can't, I'll find somebody who can, or learn how to. And so being that guy for other people, that's what I want my identity to be.
That's awesome. I know you've definitely been that guy for us a time or two.
Well, you guys,
For sure.
I don't know. I mean, brag on you guys. I mean, both of you guys have helped me in tremendous ways. I mean, it's unbelievable. If you have not worked, I'll do the camera thing now. If you haven't worked with Joel and Gracie Davis, you're missing out, because they will go above and beyond to make sure that whatever problem that you have gets fixed, and will be there every step of the way. So I seriously, I can't thank you guys enough. I know my family thanks both of you guys for helping, especially on my brother's house. And so that's the cool thing about being a problem solver, is you can reach out to other problem solvers, and that's definitely you guys.
Agreed.
Yeah. It's
I
great to
didn't
have
know I
people
had
like that in your circle.
so many problems until I got married.
Yeah.
Great that I have Gracie to solve them for me.
Yeah, good thing you married a good one.
No, but it is great to have people like that in your circle.
Yep.
And like I mentioned, we've reached out to you on many things when we were selling our old house,
Yeah.
or remodeling it, when we
when
When
we
our-
figured our pipe was messed up.
we had
on
a
our new
leak in
house.
our new
Yeah.
house that we were like, man, what are we gonna do about this?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Joel's
it's always
like,
fun
we can call
when Joel
Pierce.
sends you a picture of ripped up sheetrock. He's like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I don't know. I just see water coming out, man. I just see water pouring out."
And that we were leaving, and because we were out of town, I don't
Yeah,
even know
you
where
are
we
coming out of
were.
town.
And Pierce called
Oh,
a
I
guy,
know.
got it done, and it
I
was
know.
over with.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, we definitely love your friendship and just
Yeah.
getting to know you and your new soon to be wife.
Yeah.
It's so great to have you guys as friends and business partners and all the things. So
Yep.
Thank
we're,
you.
We're very blessed too. You guys are amazing and have been a huge help in both of our successes. So
well, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
And
no, I enjoyed it. This was cool.
It was a lot of fun. We really appreciate it. We want to give a shout out to Tap In Studios, where we do our podcast. If you want to do a podcast, give us a shout. Dante is great, and also big shout out to Kendra, who's always here helping us in the studio. Really love you, Kendra. But that wraps it up, and peace.